Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Gyan Bhakti. We are currently studying the scripture Mysticism of Ramayana. Commentary is by my Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayananji Maharaj, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhil Ananda. We are currently on Kishkinda Kand and we were studying the story of Bali and Sugriva. So eventually, Sugriva discovered that the mountain ashram in which he was presently dwelling would be a safe refuge because, due to a curse from the sage, Bali would be destroyed if he ever set foot on it. So there he set up his kingdom with his monkey friends and advisors. However, despite the power of that curse, Sugriva was still haunted by fear of being harmed by his crafty and aggressive brother. When Rama heard the story, he lifted his arm saying, O Sugriva, listen, if you challenge Bali, I vow to kill him with one single arrow. Even if he were to go to Brahma or Shiva for refuge, he would not get it. Finally persuaded by Rama, Sugriva went out to challenge Bali and he started roaring in front of his palace. Although Tara tried to discourage him from responding, Bali wouldn't listen and he came out to fight with Sugriva. When the fight began, Rama hid behind some bushes, watching for his opportunity to shoot at Bali. But the two brothers looked so much alike that Rama could not safely discharge his arrow without fear of destroying the wrong brother. In this first round of fighting, Sugriva was terribly beaten and he came back to Rama shrieking in pain. Oh Rama, you deceived me. If you wanted me to be killed, you should have killed me yourself. Why did you send me to fight with my brother when you were not going to help me? Seeing his friend in such despair, Rama placed his hand on Sugriva and Sugriva became healed of his wounds. Then Rama placed a garland of flower on Sugriva to distinguish him in appearance from his brother and sent Sugriva back to fight Bali again. This time Rama waited until the opportune moment when Bali had his back to him and then discharged his arrow and killed Bali. As Bali lay dying, he became filled with devotion and asked Rama for the boon that in future embodiments he might have spontaneous love for Rama and that his son Angada be accepted now as Rama's servant. All the monkeys in that region of Kishkinda, along with Tara, mourned his death with great anguish. Seeing Tara in such a state of grief, Rama removed the delusion from her mind and blessed her with enlightenment. Then Rama gave instructions to Sugriva to perform rituals for the dead body of Bali and instructed Lakshmana to go with Sugriva to his capital and there to place him on the throne. Rama himself could not go, for he was observing his father's promise that he would stay away from all cities for 14 years in forest exile. In a wonderful ceremony, Sugriva was enthroned and Angada, Bali's son, was declared as the crown prince. Further, the new king promised that after the rainy season had passed, he would send an army of monkeys to find out where Sita was held prisoner. Mystical meaning: Bali is a symbol of Ashuddha Manas, the lower or impure mind that is dominated by anger, pride, greed, misunderstanding, lack of thoughtfulness, irrational sense of revenge, and other negative qualities that are born out of ignorance. Sugriva is a symbol of Shuddha Manas, or pure mind, higher mind. Pure mind is considered the younger brother, and the impure mind, because an aspirant first finds his mind to be ashuddha or impure, and then by effort he strives to make it pure. The demon that challenges Bali and fights with him inside the cave represents Tamas. Tamas meaning inertia. Because the impure mind has lots of rajas. Rajas is passion and activity, it is able to overcome tamas. However, that impure mind has no intention of allowing the sattvic or pure mind to take over its rulership. So it tries in all possible ways to strip sattva of its power. Thus, the pure mind is always being chased by the impure mind, as Sugriva was chased by Bali. Eventually, in the atmosphere of satsanga or good association, symbolized by the ashram that Bali was forbidden to enter, Sattva or purity is nurtured and protected to a certain extent. However, even here, the pure aspect of mind is still afraid of the impure aspect. Like Bali was always, Sugriva was always afraid of Bali. One never knows how the impure aspect may find a devious way to overpower one's moods, thoughts, emotions. Only with Hanuman like spiritual strength that helps to secure one's friendship with Rama can one ever become permanently established in Sattva. The project of sadhana, therefore, is to destroy the impure aspect of the mind and let the pure mind rule over the senses and all their functions, which in the Ramayana are represented by the army of monkeys and bears. At first, this army is under the control of the Bali aspect within an aspirant. But in spiritual movement, this Bali aspect must be killed and the Sugriva aspect must come to the forefront. In this process, Sugriva has to be aided by Hanuman, who represents Atmabal, the wondrous power of the soul, which is brought out by sadhana or spiritual discipline. It is Hanuman, with his immense faith, purity, willpower, who leads the soul to discover its innate glory, who enables one to realize Brahman. In the beginning of the battle between the higher and lower selves, the two are so blended that it is extremely difficult to see the demarcation between them. Rama, who is seated behind the bushes of the mental impressions, is eagerly waiting to destroy the lower self. However, in the earlier stages of spiritual advancement, his arrows would destroy both the higher and lower aspects of mind or the entire mental process. This can be understood better by simple self-analysis. Think of those moments when your pride or anger is mercilessly thwarted or quelled. The effect is so devastating that your whole being is shaken profoundly and you feel that your very self has been totally destroyed. An aspirant may pray sincerely for deliverance from his lower self, but if he is not highly mature, any abrupt attack on the negative aspect of his personality may cause heart failure in his entire being. Therefore, Rama waits patiently as Bali and Sugriva exhaust their energies as the higher and lower selves continue to fight. Finally, when the two become clearly separated and distinct, when the higher self becomes decked with a divine garland of flowers, Rama shoots his arrow. The garland is symbolic of the development of virtuous qualities. Once virtuous qualities are well established in one's personality, the clearest indication of spiritual advancement, then the higher self has become distinctly apparent. Therefore, we are supposed to wear that garland of fragrance by working diligently by purifying ourselves. That is the time when Rama can safely discharge his arrow from deep within the unconscious and destroy the lower self. This episode dramatizes the process of vasanakshaya or destruction of impure subtle desires in the evolution of an aspirant. And we will continue with this satsang tomorrow. Om Tat Sat.